So some Pan-African Parliament members have resorted to physical attacks as a contention over the leadership voting process continued today. The chamber in Midrand, north of Johannesburg, erupted in chaos as caucus fought over whether or not the presidency should be on a rotational basis versus the current direct elective system. The Southern Caucus is leading the call for rotation, while the East and West heavily oppose the notion.
It's been a tough start to the fourth session of the 5th Pan-African Parliament. Since last week, heated debate over the presidency saw threats being exchanged by some members. Today, it became physical. SA's chief whip of the majority party, Midrand, had initially wanted to open a case of assault against fellow member of parliament who physically attacked her, but later changed her tune.
Mr. Chipirich came to me to say he really wanted to apologize. It was not his intention to kick at me. He was trying to kick at a Zimbabwe man, not me. But I was caught up in a crossfire as I was trying to separate them. So he was really apologetic and very sorry to say he does not, even in his own country. When I told him that this is a very serious case of gender-based violence in South Africa, you don't beat a woman.
I'm not ashamed to do that. If I was the intention to do that, I don't apologize. But when I show that that's not my intention, I have to do so. No, I'm not shameful to that.
Presiding officers were forced to adjourn the sitting as they struggled to control the House. The Southern Caucus, which is leading the call for the rotational leadership, remained steadfast in their position.
No rotation, no elections.
I'm fine, how are you?
No rotation, no elections.
In the PAP's 17-year history, no MP from both the Northern or Southern Caucasus have held the position of president. That's why the South resorted to seeking advice from the African Union's legal directorates, which favoured the rotational leadership.
Pan-African Parliament is an organ of AU. And we are bound by any decision that comes from AU. So as Southern African Caucus, we don't expect anyone in his conscience, right conscience, to dispute directions that come from AU. AU is the mother body. All organs are bound by the principles that come from AU. So those who feel that they don't want to be bound by what comes from AU, I think it's time that they leave the African Union.
I don't want to talk about Mali position. I want to talk about PAP position, about rule position. It's simple. Rule says if you want rotation, you need to ratify the Protocol of Malabo. If 28 countries ratify the Protocol of Malabo, we go through to the rotation. That is our point.
The contention still remains, with the Southern Caucus calling on the African Union rules of rotation. But the Eastern and Western Caucasus argue that the rules of PAP do not have an allowance for rotation. And if it were to be allowed, it must be voted on by the majority of the House. Noma Bolani, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Sophie Mukwena, foreign editor, also spoke to Albina Aboug from South Sudan, who was also unhappy about the leadership rotation issues.
That rotation have nothing to do with the Pan-African Parliament. It was a legal opinion addressed to the Southern Caucus. It cannot be enforced at the Pan-African Parliament here. It was not addressed to the clerk. Anything related to the Pan-African Parliament must be addressed, or to be addressed, should be addressed through the legal way. Therefore, it is not a legal binding.
If this matter is brought up for members to vote,
it will be rejected upon arrival.
Upon arrival,
yes.
How will it be rejected if some members are supporting it? How will it be?
They can debate whatever they want to debate, but the rules are rules. You don't debate during the time of the election. We do have a two agenda today: swearing of the member and the election. Anything other than that is just, it will be a scandal, and we are not ready for the scandal at this particular time.
But what is the problem with Sudan? Sudan is torn by conflict and wars. It is not united. and it hopes to lead the continent and to unite the continent with this kind of a position.
Every country has its own issues. South Africa used to have their own issues.
I'm talking now, South Sudan fighting to lead this body with the intention to unite and move the continent forward, when the country itself is pleading from outside world to even give it food and to unite it.
That is a very disrespected question, and I believe it is a very biased question. South Sudan is a very stable nation. We are at the peace, and we are a sovereign nation. We are eligible to run at any office. You are talking like you represent Ship Sharambera, and that is a question I'm not willing to answer. It's a very ridiculous question.
But it's a reality that Sudan is going through challenges.
Zimbabwe have their own issues. Each country in Africa, they have their own issues. And South Sudan is an independent nation. We have our own issues, but we are managing our own affairs.